Hello Buddhas, today we are going to talk about taking the easy way out. Now, Buddhas, before we get started, I've got to let you all know that I've got a playlist down below with well over 150 Buddha Billionaire, I think it's 150, well over 150 Buddha Billionaire videos that you can click on to binge watch all of my content and accelerate your spiritual awakening. While you're down there, you can also hit that like, subscribe button. Really helps get this into the algorithm so that more people can wake the heck up. Now, let's take the easy road for just a minute. Something happens. I don't know what it is. Let's say you get cut off in traffic. For those of you who drive or have ever driven, it could be a little frustrating. You're doing your own thing and someone just boom right in front of you, slam on the brakes to avoid that accident, and it is triggering. It's a very frustrating, annoying situation to find yourself in. The first thing that you are probably going to do, and I can tell you that I would probably still do, is yell and scream at that a-hole who cut you off and blame, it's his damn fault. I'm assuming it's a guy, usually, the aggressive kind of situation. But, Buddhas, when you do this, you are taking the easy way out. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that now. This is what causes massive worldwide conflicts and death. This is the same thing that causes riots. This is the thing that causes people to blow themselves up. And I'm being dramatic on purpose. Because when you cannot take responsibility for your own life and actions, you blame. And when you blame others, that's when really negative shit actually happens. You are putting out negative thought forms. Really negative garbage is coming straight out of your head and going at that person who, yeah, they cut you off in traffic and they might be a complete and utter, insert expletive here. This is child-appropriate content, always blessed. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is, well, you gotta love yourself, but also how you react and how you perceive these situations is going to then dictate what you get next. And that's because when you're constantly iterating that it's their fault, 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 they did something wrong, them, I'm okay, I'm just a victim over here. What you do by doing that is actually completely and utterly destroy any shred of power or energy you have in the entire universe. Gone immediately. You just gave it all away. If you really think about it, we exist at an energy level. We have to. Energy is everything. This just created energy. Well, I used energy to change it. I didn't actually create it, but you understand what I mean. The energy of our thoughts that are constantly being negative and blaming other people are giving them, all those other people, and I'm talking to you specifically, if I blame you as the viewer for not hitting that like button down below, then I'm completely and utterly handing over all the power to you. But if I just say, hey, go ahead and smash that like button, at the end of the day, doesn't make much of a difference, but it does help me, and you feel compelled to do it, then you're just giving me that tiny little bit of energy. But I'm not making you do it, so I'm not generating a dependency there, but I'm also not blaming you for not doing it. If you choose not to hit the like button, then that's totally your prerogative and your choice, and I would feel no negative animosity towards you. Thank you for watching the video nonetheless. But if I'm constantly looking at my YouTube analytics and going, nobody's hitting the like button, then I'm giving away all of my power that I have as the being creating this content, as the being who's looking at those results, as the being who is going through this process, this state of sharing and having that like button smashed and enjoying this creation. If I'm constantly down on myself and being negative and being like, well, those guys over there didn't do the thing that I needed them to do and that's why it never succeeded. Well, if that's the case, then I will never succeed at my dreams in my life because I'm constantly giving the power to the lamp. Lamp over there. Let's just say that's a person. It's their fault that the like button's not being smashed. Where in reality, it's nobody's fault. It's just people hit the button or they don't hit the button. Doesn't matter. People cut you off in traffic or they don't cut you off in traffic. They might have the most incredible reason for cutting you off in traffic that you would never even imagine. And yet, you're the one who reacted by calling them the a-hole and thinking, oh, that is totally fine because you're not actually going to go and try and beat them up for it. But at the end of the day, Buddhas, when you blame others, you are no better than the terrible tyrants of this world who had terrible little tyrant tantrums, all those words rhyme beautifully, and ended up causing millions of deaths across, let's just call it, most of Europe, essentially during the Second World War and Cold War eras, where, let's face it, a bunch of really primitive men, and I mean men in the actual term right now, not the general human beings, but just the men specifically were some of the worst. They blamed another group, and I'm being vague about my words here so that YouTube doesn't try and just flag this about me talking about stuff, but there was a group of men, they blamed another group for what they perceived to be valid reasons somehow, and that caused some of the biggest armed conflicts that we know of in human history. In a very short amount of time, literally millions of people were what I consider murdered on both sides. It was a bad time to be alive about 100 years ago, let's be frank. And that's only talking about the First World War. Then there's the second one where it was worse. So, well, objectively speaking, they both had their atrocities, but everyone knows the story of the guy with the little mustachy thing who tried to take over the whole planet. Yeah, his whole, method operandi was, it's those people over there's fault, so everything that I'm doing is clearly justified. If you actually, I'm not trying to get into a massive World War II topic here, but if you look at it, it was a guy and other players, but there was one main guy who thought a lot of the problems that he was experiencing were those guys' fault. So he tried to kill them all. Killed a lot of them. It took a long time, and it took a lot of lives on both sides to end, well, at least I hope it was ended, to end that state of human history. And having gone back and refreshed from a lot of documentary footage on that, it's really fresh in my mind, which is why I'm feeling like I need to talk about it. But having gone back and watched this, I can see so blatantly, A, the terrible cruelties and the unimaginable war crimes, yes, fact. But B, the sense that these men had that it was another group's fault that they were having such a hard time. Oh my god, it almost makes me want to cry. Well, it does make me want to cry because it's so sad what happened. But the justifications that they gave were never, oh, because I create my reality and I like to think positively. Oh man, I'm gonna leave this in the video. Their justifications where they were literally lining people up to be disposed of, where, oh, it's their fault that this thing I perceive of in my life is not going the way that I wanted it to, so let's do that heinous act. I try to not be too political on this channel on purpose and not talk about world events as they stand right now, but think about it, Buddhas. Think about what you're really doing when you blame others. And it can sound so naive and basic if you're just yelling at that guy who cut you off in traffic. It can sound totally out of this world that someone like Mr. Tiny Mustache had the same complex And those are not the same magnitude of human impact. I get it, they're not in any way, they never would be. But it's the same thought process. And if you perpetuate the blame game, all you're doing is asking for, that to happen again. So, Buddhas, on that note, because it's turning into a very cheery video today, I want you to really, really think about blaming in your life. Yes, things have happened in your life, and yes, they may not always be the most cheery thing in the universe. And no, in no way am I saying that if someone commits a heinous act, that they are not to blame for that act. But remember how you react to the little tiny things. And it seems like such minutia, but Buddhas, I promise you that if you seriously and objectively look at the blame game and you choose to no longer play, that is one of the most incredible steps that you will ever take on this journey. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily easy. I'm not saying it's not. But Buddhas, that's the life changer. So, comment down below. Let me know if you thought this was a little left field or not. But it's not going to be a usual situation where we're talking about major world events. But I thought it was relevant for today. So Buddhas, on that more positive note, remember that the only thing that matters at the end of the day is to love yourself.